Oh my gosh.
Okay, we got this. We got this. Breathe and enunciate.
So, Pioneer Careers podcast, this is it.
This is it. We're here.
We're here. We're in the studio. We got our headphones on.
For the first time ever.
I'm Natalea Hillen.
I'm Kenny Anderson.
And we are really excited to bring you wonderful information, guidance, advice into becoming, getting into your new beginning. That's what it's all about. Going into your new school year, confident, and, having that focus on what's important and, executing that.
And for some students, it's a new transition as well, from high school to college. There's transfer students, non-traditional students as well, and even Point Park staff and faculty on campus. It's just a really, unique transition where, we're coming out of a pandemic kind of into an endemic and, getting back to everyday life kind of a thing.
Yeah. So, Kenny, can you kind of tell me a little bit about yourself and, introduce yourselves?
Well, interesting thing about me is I am a staff member here at Point Park. I work in the Career Readiness Center, coordinating events and, all that fun jazz. And this is kind of a side project that I'm really, interested in. I've always wanted to do a podcast. Weird. Weird that I wanted to do a podcast all throughout the pandemic with my roommate. And I'm here right now doing it with you.
That's
and I'm
amazing.
Really excited because we've worked together before. And I'm really excited to do this with you.
That's awesome. I'm excited too. I'm a senior here at Point Park, so I'm in broadcast journalism and marketing. And I'm excited to dive into our topics and really get to the nitty gritty of things.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So today, as Natalea mentioned, we're going to be talking about new beginnings and transition, into the new school year. You might be starting fresh. And if you want to touch on that a little bit, how that experience was for you, maybe, you're a senior now. If you want to touch about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I started college, obviously in being a freshman, so I wasn't a transfer or anything, but I did come in with COVID. So it was a completely different experience than most students. It was a very unique experience. We had to come in. We weren't allowed to have normal gatherings with people. We had to wear masks. It was very strict in a way. So my experience was different, to say the least. But I wouldn't change it for anything. Everything happens for a reason, in my opinion. Yeah. And I don't think my freshman year would have been the same if it wasn't for that. So I just made the best of everything. And I think that's something to point out, is just to try to be positive about absolutely everything you can. And I know it's easier to said than done, but I promise you that positive mindset will make such a difference in your daily life. Just positive affirmations, just going into your day, okay, I can do this, I can get this done. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did my freshman year. So.
I think positive mindset is very important because, that's something that I kind of struggle with, just trying those daily affirmations, because it's easy to get down on yourself, especially during COVID. You're isolated, you're alone, mm-hmm. You're a freshman not knowing what is going on. So really trying to, psych yourself up, being positive and just being like, I'll get through this. This isn't the end, right? So, I'm happy you're here. I'm happy, you're a senior now.
Yeah.
You're going into your senior year. You're about to graduate.
Yeah.
That's a new beginning.
Wow. Enjoy it, because it does fly by. Like they always say, every stage of your life does fly by. So it's really important to really embrace the present moment and, learn from your mistakes, learn from the past, but don't dwell on it, because it doesn't do anything except for, bring you down. So it's just important to stay positive. And I think whenever you're going into college as a new freshman, transfer, whatever the case is, it is really important to start, getting involved with things. Get involved as much as you can. That's how you make great friendships, coming to college. And it'll make the transition a lot easier. You'll have people that you can trust. And mm-hmm. I still have friends from my freshman year. I have pretty much the same friends. And it helps that I was on, I'm on the track team. So I was able to create a lot of friendships through that, and then through all my media groups. So it's definitely worth it to join stuff.
I'll definitely have to second that, because getting involved is extremely important. Even though I'm, 7 years removed from college, from my undergrad, if I didn't get involved in the student organizations that I did, I got involved in, Clarion Allies, which is the LGBTQ group on campus. I probably would have felt lost, because you need that kind of camaraderie and that sense of belonging when you come into a new environment. This is a big transition for high school students. They're used to living at home, right? They're used to being around mom and dad, or their family, their parents, and just having that sense of belonging with their family. But now they're in a new environment. They kind of have to figure it out for themselves, and that independency, which is scary, right? Because independency, in my opinion, has to be one of the most scariest things to really endure and try to figure out things for yourself. But if you get involved, you find that group, whether it be a student organization, a club within your major. You can be both as well, or even just friends on campus, roommates, whatever it is, someone you run to at the campus or the coffee shop on campus. I think that's kind of what's important when you first come to campus.
Yeah.
Getting involved, using that activities fair, finding what clubs really interest you, and just kind of going from there. You don't have to have it all figured out as soon as you come to campus. Take it step by step, use it at your own pace. And there's tips and stuff, that people kind of suggest to you, and like stuff you can kind of go step by step. But it's all yours for the taking.
It's true. I think one thing that is super important to remember is, this is what I've been telling a lot of, I'm an honors mentor, and I've been trying to tell a lot of our mentees yesterday, is that no matter if you're 30 minutes away from here, from home, you're 6 hours away from home, everyone is coming together in a new environment when you're a freshman. It doesn't matter. A new environment is a new environment. And I think that's important to remember, because just because you're literally 20, 30 minutes away and you're living here, that doesn't make you any different than someone that's 7 hours away. So, you're all in the same boat together. So I think that's something that you can all bond over, and just really, you're all in the same boat pretty much.
As High School Musical said, we're all in this together.
Yes, we're really all in this together here. But it's awesome. The independency is amazing. I think there's nothing like it whenever you're coming from home going to college. I really loved being on my own. And also, it was hard at the same time, because you're used to certain friends at home and you're used to certain ways. But it's awesome going to college. I think it's a great transition and, your growth.
Once you get over that hump of the independency, it's scary at first, like I said, but once you get over that hump, you find your crowd, you find your sense of belonging. It's one of those magical things where you're just like, oh, it's like, how do you want to word it? It's, like the horizon, you're going over that hill and you see the sunrise, you're like, ah!
I'm dead. Yeah, that's literally how it is. And you get there and you're like, oh, this isn't that bad.
Oh, it's not that bad at all.
Not at all.
Why was I ever scared?
Yeah. Oh, man. All right, next thing I would say is, if you're not a freshman, you're going to be a sophomore, junior, senior. It's different for all you as well. Same type of thing. Each year feels different, because going into freshman, it's just the beginning. You don't really have any focus on what you're going to do, or you're just kind of going into your major and that's what you're interested in, right? Sophomore year is okay,
now what?
I'm here. What else can I do to enhance my career, especially Point Park? We have so many great, things that you can do to get involved with your career and enhance your career. Junior year is okay, I need to think about getting an internship. I need to think about, what a little bit more serious side, right?
Yeah, you're getting more mature. It's still a new beginning, right? Because you're trying to find out what you can do with your career, right? You're more established in your major, and it's a kind of another transition into that college life. You're still in the college life, but then you are really focusing on that career aspect, and really preparing for life after graduation, which is also another transition and very scary, from the independency of high school to college, from college to life after graduation. It's just a continuous transition, and it's kind of inevitable. And once you realize it's inevitable and it's continuous, I think that's your own strength, in my opinion.
I've been going through it the last couple of months too, just because I've been thinking about, I'm very futuristic. That's one of the things that so I don't know if you've ever heard of Gallup Strengths, but basically it's a thing that you can take. My mom had me take it a couple years ago, but one of my top 5 is futuristic. I'm very futuristic. I think about the future a lot, and you don't want to, you want to have a balance of everything, but I think it benefits me in a lot of ways, just so I can have a plan of what I want to do for the most part. Obviously, you can expect the unexpected with things. You don't know what's going to come up, but I've been thinking about what I'm going to do next year. I have 1 year left. I graduate, and then I have to think about where I'm going to get a job or where I want to apply to. So it is scary. Change is scary, but it's a constant.
You're telling me.
It's the only constant. It really is. So I have to embrace this part of my life right now, even though it's scary.
And one of the things that I think could apply to everyday life that I learned in therapy is, You can only control what you can control. You can control what you do with your career. People can control how they react to transition, how they react to change, how they kind of react to that adversity. But anything outside of that, once you realize you're not in control of everything, that's also another strength that you can have. So.
I agree. It's very true. When you realize that all you can control is yourself and your actions, you can't control anyone else around you, you're at a lot of peace. I agree.
I say this a lot to myself. You can only control what you can control. Because in the end, that's all you can really do. You can't control someone else's actions. You can't control, if someone wants to. I mean, you can kind of, but you can't control, if someone hires you. You can only control how you react in that interview process a little bit.
Yeah, so we actually can touch on interviews and stuff if you want to. I mean, a lot of sophomores, juniors are going to be starting internship interviews. I know a lot of people that I know from Point Park are getting internships for the fall, and they had to go through interview process either with the Penguins, if they're doing something with the Pittsburgh Penguins, or, another organization. What do you think is the number one thing to think about when you're going into that interview?
I would say the number one thing is just be your authentic self. Because if you kind of go into it being another version of yourself, it's not going to feel authentic. It's not going to feel organic when you're in that interview process. And the person who's interviewing you is going to be able to pick up on that. They're going to be like, oh, who is this person? Like, they're not coming off as authentic. I feel like I don't have a sense of who they are. But if you go into it knowing who you are and feeling that comfortability, I think the rest is history. I mean, obviously you have to be prepared, right? You have to know the company. You have to kind of, anticipate some questions and whatnot. But if you go into it just being yourself and being confident, I think that's step number one. That's the best you can do.
I agree. I think the number one thing for interviews I've done in the past, I've been myself. I've been who I am. I've prepared.
You have a bubbly personality, Sal.
Thank you. So I prepared. I think combining the authenticity and with preparing those questions is important, because if obviously you want to practice answering the questions yourself. You don't want to just practice answering them like a robot, like, hi, I'm Natalea. Like,
hi, I'm Kenny. This is me.
Yeah. If an employer hears that, they're going to be like, I don't know if you're for the position. You just seem a little fake.
You'll be like, they'll get the Next Bus out. Remember the Next Bus in MTV?
No.
Am I aging myself right now?
You might be.
So
you might be getting up there.
MTV back in the day, they had a show called Next, and they would have this person, whatever, and people would step out of the bus. It's like a dating show, and if they didn't like the person, they'd say next or whatever and get on the bus. And that made me think of that. If the employer doesn't like you and they can sense that unorganic or they don't really like you, next. Get back on the next bus.
True. Well, yeah, that's pretty much what happened. Next. You're a finalist next. No.
If you'd like to have your voice heard, maybe talk about, your transition in life, new beginnings, talk about the new school year, feel free to email us at careerdev@pointpark.edu. That's careerdev@pointpark.edu.
So, Kenny, you started here during COVID, right?
I did. Right before COVID started.
Right before. That's insane. So you've gotten kind of a feel for what it was like a little before and during. Can you kind of explain to me what that was like for you?
So it was interesting because I graduated with my master's in December of 2019, master's in counseling, and started to look for jobs, Didn't know a pandemic was about to happen, but I kind of lucked out because I applied for a job at Point Park, and I got the job. My first day on the job was late February 24th to be exact. And then we all know what happened 3 weeks later, March 13th, the infamous Friday the 13th, told to work from home, whole country shut down, right? Oh, it's just going to be 2 weeks, right? it's just
That's
2
what
weeks.
they said.
That's what they said.
That's what they said.
2 years later. So the onboarding experience for my job here at Point Park was very interesting because I was here for 3 weeks, 5 days a week. Was told to work from home. It was only going to be 2 weeks after that. That whole summer, that fall, we came back of 2020 for 2 days a week, I believe. And then they shut us down again because the cases ramped up and told to work from home 2021. And then 2021 summer, 2021 fall, they kind of eased us back a little bit again. Nope. Cases ramped up again. So it was very interesting. And then I myself got COVID in the spring of, January 2022. So that was the first time I ever had COVID, the only time I ever had COVID. But it's been a very interesting onboarding experience, I would say. Very unlike most jobs because I started kind of onboarding in person completely switched everything up, completely virtual, online, had to learn off the bat, Zoom, virtual recordings, virtual meetings, virtual workshops, all of that on my own. And now, it's 2023. We're kind of in that endemic phase. I'm hoping, cross my fingers. And I feel like I'm finally starting to get into my role. 3 years later, 3.5 years later.
3 years later.
3.5 years later, I'm finally feeling like I'm doing what my role is supposed to.
And you're in your new beginning right now.
This is a new beginning.
This is your new beginning.
This is my new beginning in my already established role, but still a transition from the virtual online world into more in person.
And as everyone knows, it's similar in ways. You still have that connection with everyone, but it's different. In person and online is a completely, especially depending on what job you have, everyone has their own different jobs. So it's different for everyone. But I'm glad that you have your new beginning here and you're finally starting to get in your groove.
I'm so excited because, this podcast is something I've been wanting to do for a while. I've been wanting to do it since COVID with my roommate, and now I'm doing it as part of my job. And
that's amazing.
I'm just excited to enhance my skills in person and seeing where the wind takes me, whatever that saying is.
Yeah, seeing where it takes you.
So Natalea, I have, kind of a question for you, right? It's your senior year. You're going into your senior year.
Yes, I am.
What are you most excited for and or, nervous about heading into your final year here at Point Park?
It's a great question. I'm most excited to get back into all of my clubs and activities and being with all my friends. I think that's the best part of college is just doing stuff that you love with the people that you love. And so I'm excited to get back into, track practice with my teammates and getting in that work grind of just going.
Oh, we got a grinder here.
We got a grinder, just going nonstop and also getting, that balance of my personal time. But I truly love it. Like being in the summer, it makes you realize, I'm ready to go back to school. I'm ready to go back with my friends and start getting back involved in everything that I did.
Yeah.
I would say I'm most nervous for, that next step, kind of what I was saying earlier about, truly like graduating and moving to a different place, because I've always had in mind, like, okay, I'll go somewhere close to home and then I'll probably move for a job after college. Yeah. And it's weird that I'm in that position right now. Even years ago, I thought that as a senior in high school. And now I'm pretty much exactly where I thought I'd be. Like it's kind of weird how I planned that out, but I just followed my gut with everything. So
yeah, just follow that hunch, right? Mm-hmm. Are you thinking about staying in Pittsburgh?
I'm not sure yet. It's going to depend on if I can get a job, but I'm really flexible. Yeah. I'm willing to move out just to get new experiences and then probably maybe move back after.
Like I said, wherever the wind takes you.
Wherever the wind takes me.
Wherever the wind takes us.
Wherever the wind takes us. That windy wind.
windy wind.
That windy wind out there.
The windawoo.
Oh my gosh.
Before we leave today, I think it would be good, to leave our audience with some tips,
yes,
how
tips
to transition, a new beginning. What are some tips that we can leave our viewers with, how to transition to a smooth, college life, right? Mm-hmm. So from Harvard, I found, something on Harvard, because Harvard, everyone loves Harvard.
We love Harvard.
In a way.
We love the Harvard gear at like Forever 21 and H&M. Representing
the crew necks, it's about to be fall. We have to have a good
We have to have the Harvard crew neck. Go get your Harvard crew neck.
Forever 21.
H&M,
H&M, I love H&M. But Harvard, I found a good article about, how to kind of transition from high school to college and what we can kind of leave those freshmen with, or even transfer students, because it could be different for them as well if they're coming from a community college to a bigger university. This might be, useful for them. So, step one, it says ask for help, which I think is very important. Don't you think?
Yes. It's hard for a lot of people to do. I've realized that. Yeah. It's hard for students to ask for help. I'm not going to say, sometimes Same. It's hard for me to ask for help. Mm-hmm. And it's, if you're aware of that and you're like, okay, it's hard for me to ask for help, but it will make such a difference.
And I think it kind of goes back to that independency. If you really establish that independency, you're like, I can do it on my own. Mm-hmm. I can do it. I don't need help. But that's kind of where you want that flexibility to come in and kind of that humbleness, right? If you really need that help, don't be afraid to ask for it. You have your friends, you have students, you also have the staff here at Point Park who are more than willing to help you, right?
Mm-hmm. And I want some people to know that, don't be scared to ask your professors, faculty, because I know that that's the last people you want to go to. because you're like scared. Don't be scared. Ask. They're all wonderful. They're all here to help. And I think that's very important to say.
Step 2, they say, is don't be afraid to fail, which is, I think, very interesting.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
love that.
For me, I was just talking about this. I'm a perfectionist. I hate failing, but I know the way to succeed is to fail, right?
Yes. I'm also a perfectionist, so I agree with you. I think once you get comfortable with failing, I think that's golden because you need to learn from your failures. And it's not supposed to be, oh, I failed. You're supposed to look at it in a positive way and really just say, okay, that was a fail, but guess what? I'm going to prove everyone wrong. I'm going to do what I want to do still and have that perseverance and dedication.
Yeah, you might get knocked down, but as long as you keep getting back up, that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Step 3, or the third tip, I should say, is explore new subjects so you can learn. Kind of go out of your comfort zone a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what are new subjects that kind of brought you out of your comfort zone here at Point Park?
Wow, that's a great question. I would say this podcast is one of them. And I'm a broadcast student. I'm in communication. So, right, it should come, I mean, it comes easy, but at the same time, like, it's something totally different and new. And I think that's with anything that I've done. And that first initial, like, new beginning of something is kind of scary, but look, here we are now. We're totally fine.
I mean, I can kind of agree because I never put my face, I put my face in front of a camera, but I never put my voice in front of all this technical equipment. So I have no idea what to expect. And I've never done a podcast before. So even though it's not like a new subject, it's something new that I can learn. And it's definitely making myself go out of my comfort zone because y'all might not know this, but I'm a huge introvert. And doing this is like so big for me.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to experience this with you and to have you by my side because your extrovertedness is making me feel more comfortable.
Thank you. That's the goal.
The fourth tip that they say is do what you like, not just to boost your resume.
That's important. You know why? I
Tell
can
me.
touch on it. Because in that interview, when you're with like the person that's interviewing you, if it's on your resume and you can't talk about it and you can't show your genuine, authentic, like we were talking about earlier, that authenticity, if you can't talk about it with your authentic self and it's just on your resume, there's no point in doing it.
I agree.
I mean, the resume builder could get you the interview, but if you can't talk about that and expand on it and show that you're passionate about that, then I wouldn't even do it. I really wouldn't. I agree with that 100%. I can see why they said that.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't have to elaborate more.
Okay. Yeah.
So the last tip that Harvard kind of, tells us for transition is learn to take time for yourself. I think that's a very huge one.
That's very big one. Because when you're in college and you're worrying about, I mean, if you're like me or you're in a sport or you do clubs and on top of school, it's no joke, right? It's no joke. You have to really make sure that you're getting the good grades. You're doing everything you have to. But when you take that 30 minutes a day to just be by yourself, and I'm not even talking around your friends either, like you're really by yourself and you regroup, it makes such a difference in your day. Meditate a little bit. It's amazing.
Kind of going back to that independency we talked about earlier. We keep mentioning, independency, that transition from high school to college, finding that sense of belonging, that sense of self. Also being comfortable being alone with yourself.
That's something that is important that I think a lot of people don't realize either. Nope. You need to be okay with yourself by yourself.
Yeah.
Work on loving yourself to the point where you aren't looking outside of yourself.
That part.
You should be completely content with who you are, and you will attract everything that you're meant to when you truly love yourself.
You better speak it. Preach.
That's important.
Thank you for watching and listening to the Pioneer Careers podcast, where we bring casual career topics into everyday conversation. And this podcast is coming to you from the Center for Media Innovation at Point Park University.
Make sure you stay tuned for the next episode. We're going to continue on to our new beginnings, kind of dive in, maybe bring a guest on, so you want to stay tuned for that. And if you have any, suggestions or you want to put anything, questions for us, you can email careerdev@pointpark.edu.
And we look forward to seeing you on the next one.
We're excited. Thanks, guys.